correct has to do with the very last correct that goes with chapter 4. And it's if you're given a slope and a y-intercept, can you put them together to form a line? Because that's what's happening in our statistics. We're going to be coming up with these equations of line that best fit our data. And we hit a couple buttons on our calculator, beeper bopper beep, y equals ax plus b pops up. They're going to give us the a, which is our slope. They're going to give us that b, which is our y-intercept, and we're going to put them together to form a line. So that's all you need to keep in mind, guys, as you work on this, is that y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept, but keep in mind your y-intercept always has an x value of 0, okay? So they might give you a point that's on the line, but it's not 0, 3, and you might have to come up with your y-intercept, and I'll talk about that at the end of the notes. So the first one, guys, if they give us a slope of -9 and a y-intercept b of 2, what would the equation be? Well, we need y equals, and then your slope, which is -9, but do not forget your variable x behind it, plus 2. Does that look okay? So we're just filling in the slope that they gave us, and b, the y-intercept. Keep y and x generic, though, because that's the whole point. You should be able to plug in an x to predict what y is going to come out from there. 2 is a little interesting, okay? We have our slope of 3/4, so he's going to go in front of our x, but then do we really need to put plus 0 behind it? No, okay? The y-intercept just happens to be the origin, 0, 0. We don't need to put plus 0 there. So this is just y equals our slope of 3/4 x blank, okay? So kind of keep that in mind, that plus 0 is unnecessary. But if you ever get a line that looks like that, where there's no constant, that means it's going through the origin, okay? The y-intercept is 0. All right, so that's all the more we kind of do with that. And then the rest, 3, 4, and 5, guys, is just making sure we can graph the line accordingly. I do not get too in-depth with this at all, because when it comes to statistics, you're just kind of matching. You're not really doing a whole lot with it. On the test, I'd give you one that's pretty easy, plain and simple like this for us to graph. So what we want to do is we want to pull the y-intercept from it. So in this case, what is the y-intercept for this line? Where's the y-intercept located? It's the -3, right? So remember, that's an ordered pair, 0, -3. And then what is the slope in this problem? -2. But we kind of talked about it a little bit in our correct when we're talking about change in y versus change in x. We actually kind of want this as a ratio. So something over something. So anytime you have a whole number, you can just put it over what? 1. Okay? So this just means down 2. And then to the right 1. I always keep my sign with the numerator, so it's always either up or down. That way, when it comes to the x value, it's always to the right. Just always go to the right. No question. You're always going to the right, and you're going to either go up or down. What does this mean? It means plot your first pair, your ordered pair, 0, -3. So 0, and we're going to go down to -3. There he is. There's our y-intercept. And then all you need to do, guys, is go down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, and you'll have all the other points that lie on that line, okay? So from that ordered pair, 0, -3, just count down 2, 1, 2 over 1. And then down 2, 1, 2 over 1. And you get that line going. A line goes on forever, so do draw arrows at the end. So I know that's going on forever. And look how creepy mine is. If you want to get your straight edge out, feel free, but I'm not going to be picky, okay? I'm just going to be looking at your plotting that original point of 0, -3, and then your next point's down 2 over 1. That's good enough for me, okay? So let's look at this next one. This next one's kind of like number 2, where we don't have that y-intercept on the back. So what did we just talk about? What would the y-intercept be? 0, right? So it's just at the origin, 0, 0. What is the slope in this case? 4/3, which means we're going to go up 4 and to the right 3. Okay, so remember, it's your change in y versus your change in x. So I always keep my sign with the numerator if there is a negative, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to plot the point at the origin, 0, 0. And from that point, we're going to go up 4 and to the right 3, and you'll get your other point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And you can keep doing that. If you want to go from there, you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And then again, connect the dots. And you have your line. I don't know why on these problems, guys, they have these lines over here. You have nothing to write over there, right? If we're graphing a line, we're not going to be graphing the line over on the answer sheet. So we're just going to be graphing the line on the actual grid. Are there any questions on what we're doing? Find that initial point, plot it, and then move from there using your slope. So if you can, and you're good on the front page, go ahead and flip it over to the back, guys. On the back, try to do it without me. Pick what your y-intercept would be, so what your first point is that you're going to plot. Label your slope and what direction you're going to be moving, up or down, and write how many. And then we'll go from there, okay? So our y-intercept, guys, did you get 0, 2? Is that all right? So we're just pulling that constant from the back and putting 0 as the x. And then your slope's always in front of the x, 1/3, which means up 1 because it's positive, and then to the right 3. Okay, so I'm going to plot my y-intercept of 0, 2 first. So I'm going to go up 2 on the y-axis, and then I'm going to go over 1, or excuse me, up 1 over 3. So up 1 and over 1, 2, 3, and then go from there. Up 1 over 1, 2, 3. So you'll notice, guys, and we kind of talked about this in our stats notes, the smaller your slope, the shallower the line. So 1/3, a fraction of 1/3 is pretty small, so it's a shallow line. But if you look at either of the lines on the front, its value is greater than 1. So like -2, a slope of -2 was a pretty steep line. And then even 4/3, even though it was a fraction, it's a fraction greater than 1, so it was a big slope, or steeper slope. Okay, I'm going to add a problem on here because I don't know if anyone started working on their section 4.2 homework on stats. I want to say it's numbers 2 and 3, I think, on there, where they have data values and they want you to come up with the equation of a line using 2 of those data values. We didn't really talk about it, but I want to show you that you guys are capable of doing it. So this kind of is for section 4.2 homework on stats. It's how to come up with a line giving 2 ordered pairs where neither one is a y-intercept. How do we do that? So let's just I'll mess with this line up here. So let's just say we have points. What point do we have? 3, 3, and 6, 4. Okay. Determine equation of a line. Equation of a line containing those 2 points. Has anybody worked on this yet? A little bit? Okay. Okay. So, and it's one of those things where, like, if you hit the help me solve this or the view an example, you kind of can make your way through it. But I'm just going to show you a shortcut, how I do it, all right? So in order to come up with an equation of a line, remember, we want to eventually fill out the form y = mx plus b if we can, okay? Where m would be our slope and b would be our y-intercept. Notice right now we have neither, right? We just have 2 ordered pairs. Neither one is our y-intercept. But we can use these 2 ordered pairs first to find our slope, okay? So we can find m using that equation that we had on our co-rec packet. All right, so let's find our slope first. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is an equation that we saw in that co-rec packet with interpreting slopes and y-intercepts. We have to use it on that worksheet that we're going to finish today, all right? Where it doesn't matter which y you choose first, but whatever y you choose first, make sure you choose its corresponding x second, or first as well, okay? So I'm going to make this my y2, so that's going to be 4, minus my second y, which would be 3. And since I chose this y first, the number 4, I'm going to choose its corresponding x6 as the x down below it. And since this was my second y I chose, I'm going to put its corresponding x below it. And what do you guys find? We get the slope. What's 4 minus 3? 1. What's 6 minus 3? 1/3. So as far as this part goes, y equals mx plus b, we have the m part. We have the 1/3. What we don't have is the b. There's two different ways to do it. I believe my math lab uses the point slope form, the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I just use this equation. So let's say what we still need to do, guys, is we still need to find our y-intercept. So I'm going to use the equation y equals mx plus b. And believe it or not, we have everything in that equation except for b. We have an m, we just calculated, which was 1/3. And we have an x and a y that's on this line. We can either use 3,3 or 6,4. It doesn't matter, okay? So what I'm going to put in, I'm going to use the 0.64. You can use either one, it doesn't matter. So in this equation, I'm going to put 4 in for my y, because that's the y value for my point, okay? I'm going to put 1/3 in for my m, because that's the slope I just found. And I'm going to put 6 in for my x. And we do all the math, and we'll be able to find b, okay? So over here, my y, I'm going to put 4 equals, and then what's my m? 1/3 from up above, times my x of 6 plus b. Do you guys agree that that's the only unknown? So now we can solve for him. Okay, so on this line, I know the 0.64 is on this line, and the line has a slope of 1/3. So I should be able to do the math and figure out b. Let 4 hang out as you figure out what 1/3 of 6 is. And I would just throw that in your calculator. What's 1/3 times 6? 2. So we have 4 equals 2 plus b, but I want to get b by himself. How do you get b by himself right now, guys? I got to move that 2 over. How am I going to move that 2 over? By subtracting. Remember, it's always the opposite operation. Okay? So I'm going to subtract the 2 over. And you get 2 equals, these cancel out, and you get b. So what's the y-intercept for this line? 2. We now have everything we need to make the line. We have the slope of 1/3 and the y-intercept of 2. So our final answer is y equals 1/3 x plus 2. So the reason why I like this method is because the only equation of a line you have to memorize is y equals mx plus b. You don't have to memorize all the other ones, okay? So realize y equals mx plus b, that x and y is any x that's on your line and any y that's on your line, all right? And notice it's the equation. I stole the points right here. 3,3 and 6,4 were right there. Look at the equation that we graphed. 1/3 x plus 2, right? So we got the appropriate equation that we needed to get.